your muscles and joints feel so tight because of your arthritis, I want you to listen up because there is a very common mistake that people make, and I don't want you to make the same mistake. So my name is Alyssa. I'm a doctor of physical therapy and an arthritis specialist, and I have created this 5-day series that's telling you the 5 common mistakes that people make with arthritis. Now I want to share this with you because I don't want you to make these same mistakes. But if you are, that's okay. There is still time to make some change. So, mistake number 3. If your muscles feel tight because of pain, because of arthritis, it's very common. But one of the biggest mistakes people tend to make is thinking that stretching is the only way to help achieve that. I meet people all the time who have limited hip mobility, limited knee mobility, limited ankle mobility, and even in your back when you can't bend forward or extend as much as possible. If you feel this, stretching is not necessarily the answer, and here's why. Muscles are typically tight for a reason, and a lot of times it's because they're weak, because our body needs stability, and so when our muscles are weak, they have to get stability somewhere, and a lot of times that's from tightness. This is very common in arthritis because a lot of times we don't move as much. We're not doing as much strengthening and as much exercise as we normally would, so our muscles tend to get a little bit weaker. Pain also inhibits our muscles a little bit too. So when we're constantly trying to pull and push on these muscles in a stretching position, we're tending to kind of aggravate those muscles. Those muscles are tight for a reason, and if we're really trying to push into and get them to be less tight, then constantly aggravating them is not necessarily the goal. One of the best ways we can improve mobility. So I had a woman who was really having a hard time with deep knee bending, and that's very common with knee arthritis. When you have difficulty with deep knee bending, constantly trying to get into that position is not necessarily going to be advantageous or feel good for that matter. But after doing this certain thing, she can actually get into a deep squat, and she can actually get into a child's pose, a yoga position where you're actually sitting your bottom back on your heels. This was all because not of stretching, but with movement. And I know it's shocking, but movement can be so important. Actual exercise, moving your muscles through their full range of motion is going to be so much more beneficial than just stretching alone. So say you're trying to stretch the fronts of your legs. So a lot of times our quads and even our hip flexors, the muscles in our thighs can get really tight. And this, most of the time, is from weakness, but it can just be from some other issues if you have some nerve issues or anything else going on. But one of the best ways to do that is not to stand and try to pull your heel up to stretch your quads. It's actually to do some form of squatting, doing some form of deadlifts where you're using your hamstrings instead of your quads so they don't have to be so tight, because now we have some help from the backs of our legs to help get us through some of these things like stair climbing and walking. So there's a lot more to it than just stretching those tight muscles. I'm actually going to put a link to another video I have that if your quads, if the fronts of your thighs are feeling tight, this has some examples of some things that you can do, because constantly pushing on those muscles is not necessarily going to get us anywhere. Because if we stretch for 30, 60 seconds, however long you're doing it, those muscles, and then just return to your daily activities, those muscles are going to return right back to that tight state, which is why you feel like you have to stretch over and over and over again. The biggest reason I see that people can kind of push through these mobility plateaus and really start to feel less tightness is by doing the right exercises. So if you are feeling muscle tightness and you want to know what sort of exercises you can do, I'm going to point you back to the 5-day, the free movement challenge, because even if it's not specific to the muscles, adding in variety of movement and really starting to challenge those muscles with the right exercises that are going to be good for your joints are going to make such a difference. I have so many clients who have been struggling with knee range of motion, hip range of motion, even low back or ankle mobility for so long without any sort of relief from doing stretches and things. But this has pushed them over the edge into finally being able to move the way they want to. So I highly encourage you to try this 5-day free arthritis movement challenge, where I'm going to show you 5 videos of arthritis-friendly movements that are going to help you thrive and help you get that joint mobility back that you are thriving for. So if the stretching and things have not been working, this could be why. And if you're doing a routine where you're doing a lot of stretching and not necessarily exercise, this is when we need to make that swap. You can absolutely still stick with some of these stretches, but I would do exercise after you stretch. So you use that new relaxation, that new range of motion, and make it more of a long-term thing instead of just a short-term success where the tightness comes back. All right, so I will see you in that 5-day arthritis movement challenge, and I hope that we can get your joints limbered up for the long run instead of those short temporary bursts. All right, thanks for watching, and I will see you in video 4 because I have 2 more mistakes coming your way, and I don't want you to miss out on them. Thanks for watching.